welcome today to the Southern Ohio Museum and Cultural Center. We have with us Naysan McIlhargey, who is a ceramic artist from Yellow Springs, Ohio. As always, I'm going to start out thanking the Ohio Arts Council and the Scioto Foundation, who make it all possible for us to bring high caliber exhibitions to town, to the museum. So we've got this wonderful collection of ceramics. Tell us about it. Give us an introduction.
Well, the body of work is inspired by Persian ceramics from the, let's say, 10th through 17th century. That was done during lockdown in London, England. We were there because my wife was working on a PhD in midwifery. And, you know, I was stuck in the apartment with my family, and I had kind of built this collection of plates and platters with it in mind, kind of thinking that something might happen. So I accumulated everything, bisque fired them, and brought them to the apartment. And then I had the entire duration of lockdown, literally like from the beginning to the end, to work on this.
To decorate
all these pieces. And then when things opened up, I was able to fire them, and then during the summer we decided to bring them here to the States so we could show them here. But the body of work itself is works that I chose that I think represent some of the best representation of Persian ceramics from this period. So it spans several dynasties and styles of work over, centuries, but these are pieces that originally are in museums all over the world. So with my phone in the apartment, I was able to do the research to find these pieces and use the imagery that's on websites and private collections, and then I could translate that to the pieces that you see here on this show.
So for us in the museum, it's really like this really great bonus show because we have examples that are in museums from all over the world, all brought together here. So this is really one of the more pinnacle pieces, in my opinion, of the exhibition. And there's so much that is going on. It's very pictorial. This tension right here with this fruit being passed from the rider to this really wonderful bird. So talk about this. Talk about where the original is and really what drew you to this piece.
Okay, so this piece, there's a few of them that are based on tile. This is based on a tile that would have been used to put on a building, most likely. So this is, like many of the others, from maybe a myth, a Persian myth, a story, a prince, and then this image here of this mythical bird, the simorgh, is basically, it's like a phoenix in Persian mythology literature.
Right.
So it represents a prince on a horse, a noble man, but it's to show status. And you think about the different use of perspective and how these are somewhat crude in terms of the perspective of how they're drawn, but imagine it's on a tile, so it's on a flat surface. So this was translated partly because I just love the different textures that are in the fabrics on the person and on the horse. So it was a challenge to do and to come up with the colors, and because I think that's partly why it's so successful, because it's on a blue. The background is solid blue, but you can see the brush strokes. And all of this different texture, the crosses, the dashes, the dots, all of these things help make the complexity of the final image.
Right. And then you get the flow of the bird's tail with the flow of the mane, and the tail. So there is a lot of visual textures going on there.
Yeah, and think this is based on a tile, and hundreds of them were made, right?
That's
so it's
amazing.
a rectangular tile, so it's taller than it is wide. And this is the one that you see that's maybe at the Metropolitan Museum is one that was of thousands or hundreds at least.
Right, amazing.
So this piece is probably of all the collection, the piece that was the most complicated for me technically to understand. How do you intertwine all of these patterns in a round shape? It's not perfectly geometrical. And it's also, how do you get from the color that I painted on it first back to the white of the clay? So this is a white clay platter. The other reason why this piece is very important to me is because I was able to request at the Victoria and Albert Museum before lockdown to look at 6 pieces, and the curator brought them to me in a ceramic study room. And this was one of the pieces that I was able to hold and to look at. It's a bowl, it's actually one of the larger bowls, maybe 9 inches across. But all of this pattern, all of this decoration is inside of that space. And the crazy thing about looking at it so closely was I didn't realize how many pieces this bowl was in. It had been glued back together in hundreds and hundreds of pieces. You can see it when you're holding it. So the challenge technically when I did this, it was with pencil and a lot of erasers, and I made circles to try to translate the distance of this and have it repeated around. But also, how do you get these colors? Because we're using materials that are somewhat unfamiliar to me. And how do you get, it's just technically it was very complicated. So I'm happy with the way this one turned out.